Today's show is sponsored by the Franklin Street Market. If you love knowing what's up and coming in the Pittsburgh food scene, you've got to check out the spring edition of the Franklin Street Market on the north side. It's an evening food market featuring emerging Pittsburgh food producers, and it's your opportunity to discover emerging food brands, pick up fresh flowers and art, and enjoy a lush Pittsburgh spring evening with a local beverage in hand. They're coming up on Thursdays. That's April 24th, May 29th, and June 26th, all from 4 to 8 p.m. at 1243 North Franklin Street. So come experience the food businesses that are blossoming in Pittsburgh at the Franklin Street Market. Learn more at franklinstreetmarketpgh.com. This episode is supported by Liberty Magic and its upcoming show, Malin Nilsson in Magic Unplugged. Magic is part of Malin's blood. She is a third-generation magician who's showcasing her skills as part of a laugh-out-loud and very theatrical performance. You'll experience handmade magic tricks, surrealism, and comedy, topped with raw onions and a pinch of confetti. If you want to see how raw onions fit into magic, well, you're just going to have to come catch the show for yourself. Malin Nilsson in Magic Unplugged is running now through May 4th at Liberty Magic, Pittsburgh's premier speakeasy that is all about the sleight of hand and elevating the art of magic. And if you're really adventurous, you should snag Skeleton VIP tickets. It gets you front row access and an exclusive meet and greet after the show. Get your tickets at trustarts.org/magic before they disappear. Today on CityCast Pittsburgh, what exactly is a data center and why does Pittsburgh have so many of them? We're sharing the latest on the arson attack at the governor's mansion, why the two dudes who jumped off PPG Place this week didn't even break any records, and how you can hopefully get your Bucko brick replaced. I'm with CityCast Sophia Lowe and Axios Pittsburgh's Chrissy Suttles to talk about some of the biggest stories of the week. It's Friday, April 18th. I'm Megan Harris, and here's what Pittsburgh's talking about. Sophia, hello. Good morning.
Hey, Megan.
And we are with friend of the pod, Chrissy, this week. Welcome back.
Hi. Happy to be here.
Chrissy, we are excited to talk to you because you have been reporting a lot about energy and data centers, and we kind of get it, but we kind of don't.
I lean more to the kind of don't side, so thank you for being here, Chrissy.
Honestly, before this week, same.
So let's just start from the very basics. What is a data center? Like, what does it do?
So data centers they come in many sizes, but generally there are these large, sweeping structures that house servers and computers.
It's a building full of computers.
It's a building full of computers and wires, and they're hot and they're noisy, and they run cloud computing. They could do things like Bitcoin mining or, generative AI like ChatGPT, which is what everyone is talking about right now.
Yeah, I mean, I was just shocked at how many of them we have. 79 in Pennsylvania and 23 just in Allegheny County. Is that a good thing to have so many of these things?
So it's actually not that many compared to many other hubs near us. We are trying to rapidly grow that. At least there are some groups in Pittsburgh and in Pennsylvania who want to double and triple that number. Like Columbus alone, just a suburb of Columbus, has 100. And so like Northern Virginia has, I think, close to 500. So we don't actually have that many. We do have 3 really big projects coming up that will house a lot more of them if they do get tenants. But I don't know that it's good or bad. I think that there's definitely a need for them with our energy needs right now. But at the same time, there are some pretty serious energy, water, environmental concerns surrounding them.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk about the environmental impacts, but I have a question kind of along the veins of whether it's good to have more in our area. I know you said it's not really a clear yes or no, But if we have more, does that mean that we have more energy produced like for us, or does the stuff in the data center go to other places? I'm just wondering, like, does our region directly benefit, like in terms of like AI growth and all of that stuff?
I thought that the data centers used up energy. They don't create it.
The data centers themselves are using the energy.
Okay,
yes,
got
but
it.
These
Never mind.
these data center campuses, though, a lot of them are going to produce energy that can be, like uploaded to the grid and things like that. It just depends on the project. Data centers themselves, that run things like AI, though, are very energy intensive and require a lot of energy, from anything from nuclear to natural gas to renewables. It just depends on the developer and the project and the company.
Yeah, so then let's go to the environmental impact. Is this bad for us? Because I know we're like sometimes thinking about fracking and drilling and all that stuff. What are people saying about data centers?
It depends on who you ask. There are some pretty big concerns about fracking. I mean, we are the second in the U.S. for natural gas production. We have a lot of natural gas here. And, it's really good baseload energy at a time when renewables, unfortunately, are not fleshed out enough to meet some of these energy demands. So the concern is more data centers require more energy. You have these massive data center campuses that are being proposed that run on natural gas. Will that
Do we make enough natural gas to power our area's data centers?
We can, yeah, definitely. And so, I mean, we make a lot of natural gas, and it could definitely meet those needs, but that requires more production, more fracking, possibly making new wells, which is, a huge concern among environmentalists and people who live close to these wells, who have been fighting for years for more space between like fracking wells and their homes and their schools, because of possible health issues. So it's a larger issue than just, will these data centers meet energy demands, or will there be in economic impacts, which is what everyone is talking about. How many jobs, what will the economic impact be? There are some other concerns.
Will it create a lot of jobs, though, if the inside is all just computer?
It's a great question.
They definitely usually, as far as I've read, create a lot of jobs while they're being built.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So, but that's not nothing. Like that can be many thousands of jobs for the period in which they're coming online.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they do, there's some ancillary industries, too, that can kind of blossom out of these. I just did a story about how increasing energy demands because of AI and data centers are increasing the need for like switch gears and transformers. And those are more manufacturing jobs. In terms of the actual jobs connected to data centers, it's a lot of construction up front, and then typically in the data centers themselves, it drops off afterward.
But with the fracking part too, like with a lot of fracking comes a lot of water usage, which means that it's not going to regular folks like you and me. And it also means that there may end up needing to be more pipeline projects, which, Chrissy, you're talking about people being upset about the wells. People get also very upset about pipelines. Like those conversations can go on for months and years sometimes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think that, people are concerned that it's not that natural gas has, fallen off. We've been fracking, we've been making natural gas, but this new conversation is, will there be more? Are we going to have another fracking boom like we saw 15 years ago? Is it going to be the same issues? Have we addressed some of the safety concerns from a decade ago that we're still talking about in order to facilitate that and protect people? It's a lot, and we don't know all of the answers yet.
Yeah, I was reading this morning actually about how like some people think it's easier to retrofit spaces. Like that's
Classic
just an
Pittsburgh.
an easier prospect. Like the former coal plant in Homer City, for example. I know that's one of the big projects you've been paying attention to. Rather than build fresh, because these spaces need to be connected to the grid, and moving that much electricity like just is not something your standard build site has like embedded into the process. Like they're just not equipped for it. I'm wondering if that tracks for your experience as an energy reporter in this region.
Oh, absolutely. And it makes us a huge hub for that. If we can attract these companies and some of this like capital from other places, I mean, just think about like the Aliquippa riverfront. It was an old brownfield that they completely remodeled. And it is a ton of land that is just shovel ready for these types of projects.
And that's north of Pittsburgh, like kind of along the Ohio River, if you're not familiar.
Yeah, just north and right along the river in Beaver County. And so they've seen a lot of, like, a new steel plant was just proposed there about a year and a half ago. And it's a prime target for developers. From what I'm hearing, a lot of developers are looking at that land specifically.
And Chrissy, just before we move on, you wrote about the Homer City plant, that thing, once it's going, is going to produce enough energy to power Manhattan. Like, that is just a wild figure to me. Like, are we talking about like for a day, like just in general? How does that work?
It would be the largest power producer in the state. It would rival the country's largest nuclear plant. It would be huge, the amount of power that thing would produce. And, it's all natural gas. So, I mean, it's a huge project, and it would produce a significant number of jobs, at least during construction. I think they quoted like up to 10,000, sometimes that number is always a little inflated from my experience, but a lot of jobs for construction on that.
So as these projects continue to develop, Chrissy, what else are you going to be watching for? What other questions are you going to be asking?
The biggest questions I have are, so we have 3 data center campuses kind of proposed. And we know some of them may come online, some may not. But all of these places need tenants. They need companies to come in and build on this land. You build these spaces for companies and these tech hubs? Will they come? Or will
do they want to be in Homer City? Is that a selling point or not? I genuinely don't know. I'm not riffing on Homer City at all.
I feel like the selling point is we can power Manhattan.
Yeah, the selling point is we can power just about anything you need. And I think that's probably attractive, but at the same time, you just don't know. We're talking about this potential boom, but we haven't really seen it yet. Yeah, we've seen an increase in data centers. We've seen an increase in jobs surrounding AI and data centers, but it's still fairly small. Like, the actual raw numbers are still fairly small. So in order for this to really proliferate, people need to come here. And that's always the conversation in Pittsburgh. Will new people come here?
And we don't even get to count those numbers. If people move to Homer City, they're not even living in Pittsburgh. That's not even a win for our population.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, we'll move on to our trivia question this week. If you are new to the show, we have trivia every week on Friday in our Hey Pittsburgh newsletter, and we give you a little taste of it here on the show. So here's this week's. Police are looking for 2 people who parachuted off the roof of PPG Place in Market Square this week.
Icons.
Honestly. That is the shiny one where the ice rink is every year downtown. It is the 3rd tallest building in Pittsburgh, but it is not the first time that someone has done this downtown. So in May of 1986, 3 people made their way to the top of another building in Pittsburgh. They were pretending to be a TV news crew because it was marathon day, and they said they were going to film the marathon. So security let them up, and 2 of them jumped off the roof. The 3rd one actually had a camera and did, in fact, film, but not the marathon, his friends jumping off the roof. So what building did these 2 elders of our base jumping community, which building did they leap off of?
Ooh. I am going to guess the Gulf Tower just for show. I mean, I guess this was during the day, but, if I were base jumping at night, I would want to do it where it's all colorful, because the Gulf Tower is that pointy one that lights up with the different colors. And yes. I don't know. I think that's one of our prettier buildings downtown. Some of them are just kind of like gray and beige, and that just doesn't seem as fun to jump off.
Christy, do you want to hazard a guess? I don't think any of us were actually alive back when this happened.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say the U.S. Steel Tower just because, A, it's a different answer, and also, I don't know, that just sounds really cool.
The U.S. Steel Tower, of course, the big, rusty black one that now says UPMC at the top. We'll have the answer after our break.
Hi, I'm David Plotz, the CEO of CityCast. We've all set health goals: lose weight, exercise more, eat better. But without a plan, those goals often fade. That may have happened to you. It has definitely happened to me. And that's where Prolon comes in. Prolon's 5-day fasting mimicking diet gives you a science-backed, structured approach to stay on track and see real results. And now Prolon is upping their game with the new next-gen 5-day program, delivering the same science-backed benefits in a cleaner, more convenient, and more flavorful format. Prolon is a plant-based nutrition program featuring soups, snacks, and beverages designed to nourish the body while keeping it in a fasting state, triggering cellular rejuvenation and renewal. Next Gen builds on the original Prolon with 100% organic soups and teas, a richer taste, and ready-to-eat meals. Developed over decades at USC's Longevity Institute and backed by top U.S. medical centers, Prolon has been shown to support biological age reduction, metabolic health, skin appearance, fat loss, and energy. I've been doing the 5-day program, and I feel so much better. I really enjoy the tasty energy bars, the snacks and soups, and the fact that I can enjoy meals, even though the calorie count is super low. The flavors and textures are excellent. An olive oil snack here, broccoli and quinoa soup there, hibiscus tea, a yummy nut bar. It's got the benefits of a 5-day fast, but doesn't have the challenge of doing it with pure liquids. It's a system reset. And also, I know this sounds funny, but it's not. The packaging and directions are fantastic, clear, and well-organized and thoughtful. For a limited time, you can be first in line to experience the new Next Gen at special savings. Prolon is offering CityCast listeners 15% off site-wide, plus a $40 bonus gift when you subscribe to their 5-day program. Just visit prolonlife.com/city. That's PROLONLIFE.com/city to claim your 15% discount and your bonus gift. prolonlife.com/city.
This episode is brought to you by Temptations Cat Treats. Your cat will come running for the perfectly irresistible Temptations Creamy Puree and Temptations Lickable Spoon Cat Treats. The best time to feed lickable cat treats to your cat is anytime. Feed by hand for a playful moment, in a bowl for a creamy treat, or as a topper to make mealtime fun. Visit temptationstreats.com to learn more.
All right, so which building did our elders in the base jumping community jump off of in 1986? The answer is yours, Chrissy, the U.S. Steel Tower.
Oh my God.
Good job.
Yeah. So they did lots of interviews back in the day. They said they did it because 2 British guys had jumped off the Empire State Building right before this happened. And they wanted to show that Americans knew how to jump off of their own buildings.
No, you go to London and jump off the big clock, jump off the bridge.
I mean, I don't know what the legalities are of jumping off of the buildings in Britain, but they said it was a matter of pride. By the way, they were all found. They were all charged. And fun fact, according to KDKA, there actually is no legal place to base jump in all of Pennsylvania. So the closest spot to us, if these 2 fellas that we're still looking for that just did it this week, if they wanted to do it legally, the best spot would be that big annual bridge day that they have every year in West Virginia at the New River Gorge.
Ooh. I did not realize that was like a day every year.
Yes,
no,
legal 1 day per year. You must sign up.
Okay, so it can't be a spur of the moment decision.
No, they will come for
this.
you for that. So we're going to turn now to the governor's mansion. Obviously, some big news that happened over the weekend there. Someone set fire to the home where Governor Josh Shapiro lives. He lives there half-time with his family. It was 2 a.m. on Sunday, just a few hours after he, his family, a couple dozen guests had all celebrated the first night of Passover. A suspect has since been arrested. They're facing 8 criminal charges, including attempted murder, terrorism, arson. Prosecutors say they're still weighing whether they want to add hate crime charges onto that. So in Pennsylvania, we call it ethnic intimidation. But as of this recording, at least, those charges have not been filed. This is all still very developing, and more info is being released every day. So we're just going to share what we know about it all so far.
Yeah, so like you said, Megan, this attack happened around 2 a.m. on Sunday. So the suspect scaled the security fence that was about 7 feet high. Police had identified the breach, but did not find him right away. He got
Shocking,
caught.
Honestly. That seems like really surprising to me.
Yeah, he also told his ex about this and asked her to turn him in. That was kind of weird to me. that the police didn't get to him first. But anyway, after jumping the fence, this person broke a window in the piano room and then lit a beer bottle filled with gasoline, basically a Molotov cocktail, inside. The pictures of this room after it's been burned are just really sad. There was a lot of destruction.
Whoever on the governor's staff took those photos, like they have so many close-up images of like things that were used during their Passover celebrations. Like, you know, it's
Place
really
cards and stuff, all these
Yeah.
little details.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of art in that room too, because they used it for tours and other things. Like the public could come in and like look at some of the artifacts and art that they had in there. That was one of the rooms that was used. But gosh, I can only imagine what it's going to take to try to restore any piece of that.
Mm-hmm. And then the suspect also broke through another window, climbed into the dining room in the governor's mansion, and then set off another fire before leaving. PA State Police said he was inside the residence for less than a minute, but honestly, like the destruction is huge in that amount of time. But very thankfully, no one was hurt because state troopers were able to wake up Governor Shapiro, his family, all the guests that were there, and got them outside. Obviously, like I'm sure the mental toll is huge, but physically they are okay.
Yeah, and I thought it was really striking too. A Harrisburg fire chief said that like if just one specific door in the room had not been closed to help contain the fire, that it could have been an entirely different outcome. Like you hear these things when you hear about fires in any kind of structure, but it's really, really chilling to hear that someone did it on purpose to an elected leader.
Well, and just how fast the fire spread. I mean, he was in there for a minute and it did that much damage. I mean, that he was really in there to do something serious.
Yeah, and then, the aftermath of Sunday kind of concluded with police again saying that they got a call from a woman who said she was the suspect's ex, saying he confessed, and then that man also turned himself in. So a little bit of resolution by the end of the day, even though there's still ongoing investigations.
Yeah, and we kind of buried this part just because like we never want to glorify any of this stuff. This guy's name is Cody Balmer. He's 38 from the Harrisburg area. Balmer told police that he was quote unquote harboring hatred towards Shapiro and planned to beat him up with a hammer if he had encountered the governor during this attack. According to search warrants, he was just really upset about Shapiro's stance on the war on Gaza. He called 911 after the attack and told a dispatcher that Shapiro needs to know that he, quote, will not take part in his plans for what he wants to do to the Palestinian people, end quote, and also said, quote, he needs to stop having my friends killed, end quote. And as to, some of the questions about motive, there are a lot of indications that Balmer was probably pretty troubled. He'd faced criminal charges over the past decade. He'd also been due in court this week for an assault case. And his family, I guess, has reached out to authorities before.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important to note here that AP reported that his mom reached out to mental health experts and police multiple times prior to this incident, basically saying that, he struggles with schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and he went off his medications and they were, seriously worried about him, that he was a threat to himself and others. And the police basically said they didn't have enough evidence to have him, put in a mental health facility involuntarily. And so it just kind of begs the question when we talk about motives and, especially political motives, there's a lot of evidence that he had serious mental health challenges.
Yeah, and we should say, too, he was also registered as an unaffiliated voter here in Pennsylvania. His brother told the AP that he generally considered himself more of an independent than anything else. But in 2024, quote, he tried to convince everybody in the family, end quote, to vote for Donald Trump.
Well, and then in terms of what's next, right now, there's an independent review happening of the Governor Mansion's security. So that includes looking at things like security equipment and personnel.
There's a third party doing that part, too. That's not happening through PA State Police.
And then our friends at Spotlight PA report that state lawmakers are going to wait for this review to finish up before making any decisions about what happens next, like whether lawmakers are holding a legislative hearing. Right now, state police is kind of in charge of all of that stuff.
My money's on a hearing. They really love to talk about stuff after it happens like that. Also, as we're recording this, I just checked my inbox. We just got an update from the state government saying that they're planning to reopen the governor's mansion in a matter of days. So they're going to be working around the clock to do restoration work, and they're going to have the governor apparently back in no time.
This podcast is supported by Progressive, a leader in RV insurance. RVs are for sharing adventures with family, friends, and even your pets. So if you bring your cats and dogs along for the ride, you'll want Progressive RV insurance. They protect your cats and dogs like family by offering up to $1,000 in optional coverage for vet bills in case of an RV accident, making it a great companion for the responsible pet owner who loves to travel. See Progressive's other benefits and more when you quote RV insurance at Progressive.com today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Pet injury is an additional coverage and subject to policy terms.
Okay, so a bunch of updates of all the other things that happened in Pittsburgh this week. Sophia, you want to kick us off with Pittsburgh's new paid sick leave policy.
Yes, I am always pro more time off. So City Council is looking at a bill right now to give workers in Pittsburgh more sick time. So the current policy is at least 5 sick days for workplaces with 15 or more employees. And then for smaller workplaces, it is up to 3 sick days. So
3 sick days for an entire year. Like, I just want us to acknowledge, like, that's not a lot.
That's bonkers.
No, not a lot at all. And the increase, I would say, is like, while definitely very much needed, the numbers are still not significantly higher. So City Council President Dan Lavelle proposed this new bill, and this would include 4 more days for workplaces with 15 or more employees, 9 total. 3 more days for those smaller workplaces, 6 total. But like 6 really isn't that many, especially like if you're a parent, your kid gets sick, you're a caregiver. And also like some people who don't have the luxury of like working from home, like if you have a lingering cough, I don't really want to be around you in public, and I'm sure you'd rather be in bed.
Yeah, and this is supported by unions, obviously, especially the SEIU, which has deep ties to the mayor's office. Gainey and other city councilors like Mosley and Warwick are also in favor. It's also, we should say, related to the mayor's race because Corey O'Connor, who's now the county controller, when he was a city councilman some years ago, he had advocated for this too, for more sick days. This was back in 2015. Another mayoral candidate, Thomas West, he actually put out a statement this week saying how he thinks it would hurt small business owners. He, of course, has that clothing store over in Lawrenceville.
And Thomas West is one of the Republican candidates. We talked to O'Connor and West recently, so stick around for our Mayoral Monday series where both of them actually mentioned sick days in their interviews. So if you want to hear a little bit about that and more about how they want to approach the city's big issues and opportunities, tune in to the upcoming Mondays for those mayoral interviews.
And in case you missed it, we also talked to Mayor Gainey this past week. We're going to hear from the final candidate, Tony Moreno, here in a few weeks.
Moving on, there could be some changes in residency requirements for folks working in our EMS departments in the city. Pittsburgh's EMS union filed a lawsuit to challenge this current rule that requires staff to live within the city limits. City officials say they aren't going to be challenging the lawsuit. This was part of a recent contract agreement with the union. And, you know, there's precedent for this. Police and fire unions had residency requirements waived to help with recruitment and retention. I am all for this. More EMS people, please. I don't want, you know, that healthcare shortage to hurt us.
Yes, thank you, Sophia. And you may have seen some updates about this next one in our Hey Pittsburgh newsletter. It's about the jock tax. Chrissy, I'm going to out you a little bit because you just said off mic that you had not heard of this one.
I've never heard of it before.
What do you think a jock tax is?
I don't want to answer that.
Fair, honestly fair. So it is a 3% tax on any out-of-town athlete or entertainer who performs here in Pittsburgh. It's in just a set number of arenas, mostly our bigger ones like Acrisure and PPG Paints and things like that.
So this applied to like Taylor Swift when she came here too.
Yes.
But jock tax is just much more fun to say.
Yes. So, it's like a tax on athletes, but it does make a big difference. So like, say, for example, like you're a football player who only plays the Steelers for literally like a few hours once a year, and you have no other business in Pittsburgh. It was taxing your wages during those couple of hours that you were playing in the city of Pittsburgh. And the city was arguing that that was comparable to the 3% income tax that we all pay for living and working here. And there's been this court case going through since 2019 saying like, in fact, no, me performing a workplace duty for a few hours once every few years does not qualify me for your dang income tax. So that's the case that's been running through the courts.
That's like the most Pittsburgh thing I can think, though. Like, we're going to charge you. We're going to charge you for visiting.
Yeah.
And bringing
honestly.
us in more money, too.
Yeah.
And interestingly, too, like you could be like, say, for example, like a Penguins player and still be subject to the tax. Like if you don't live in the city of Pittsburgh and you were visiting, say you lived in Sewickley Heights or something, and you play in Pittsburgh, it was taxing those wages for the individual times that you were here. Isn't that wild?
Fascinating. So how much money is that every year? Do we know, like for the city, like total?
Well, we do, only because our city budgets are still pretending that we're collecting this money. We have not been collecting it since it was struck down by lower courts. But like if you look at our 2025 budget right now, you may have heard me kind of giving Gainey some grief about this early this week. If you listen to our show, he says, our budget is balanced. Like, look at our surplus. And I'm like, yeah, but the budget says we're collecting the jock tax, which in 2025, they're counting on $6 million. We're not bringing that money in. That's not coming into city coffers. That is fake money, at least for now, until a higher court says it's okay. And that's what has been happening here recently. So the state Supreme Court has been hearing oral arguments about this. Like I said, several lower courts have said we should not be collecting money like this. But after hearing oral arguments, the justices were like, we don't know what to do with this. They said they need more information before they can make a ruling on whether it's actually unconstitutional. As far as we can tell here, just from our reading here at CityCast, there's no court date yet on the next briefing. Like the whole thing just sort of played out like what the heck is this? We need to read up a little bit more.
It's just not real. Well, so, there's no date set. So are we just going to pretend this money exists forever?
We did last year, and we are this year, too.
I'm just going to pretend I have $6 million if we're just doing that now.
And then some quick updates on some news from last week's roundup. The ACLU of Pennsylvania sued the University of Pittsburgh. They did this on behalf of Students for Justice in Palestine, SJP, and they filed that lawsuit this week. So last week, we talked about how Pitt suspended the campus chapter of SJP in March. This was an interim suspension, which means that the group can't hold events on campus or get funding from the university. Very, very, very short summary of why this happened. SJP held a study-in event at the library that the university said didn't follow school policy. And then they didn't follow the communications rules during their conduct hearing about the study-in, so they got suspended. And the ACLU has officially stepped in, and they're saying that Pitt violated students' right to free speech, so that's why they're suing, and, we'll keep an eye on this.
Yeah, and I know y'all covered the SJP and the Axios Pittsburgh newsletter, so everyone read both. Read both newsletters.
They're both short.
They're both short, yes. We're going to talk a little bit, too, about the Bucko bricks. We also talked about this last week. KDKA had found the Bucko bricks. So these are like the ones that were over by like some of the entrance points, for example. You may not have noticed, but there were like a lot of messages, loved ones, names, like something from your pap and etched into the brick. And you got to a lot of people talked about like tapping it with their toe as they were coming into a game. A lot of them were ripped up because The Pirates said that they needed to redo like the concrete there by the entrance. But they just sort of disappeared and fans weren't told where the heck their bricks went. And KDK found them in a recycling facility. People were very mad. We were joking last week that it like kind of seemed like maybe the Pirates were just like trying to check like something else on their bingo card for like ways to piss off their fans. And these Bucko bricks have been around for a while. They were first sold in 1999. Anyway, there's a form up now on the MLB website if you want to take advantage of this new program. The team president says they're going to offer everyone a free brick replica of whatever it was that you had that was there on the ground. You can get a copy of some kind sent to you now.
And it also is worth noting that this is like the third iteration of those bricks. They have replaced them 3 times since the late 90s.
I think this is the third time.
Yeah. This is the third time. Because, I mean, they get worn down, right? People step on them,
totally.
Especially if you're tapping them with your foot every time you're going to a game. Also, can I just say, speaking of things that could only, like, stories that can only happen in Pittsburgh, it's this. Because, like, I feel like this is in the vein of, like, remember when Kennywood, like, replaced Hines with Hunts? This is...
Oh, my God.
That?
Yeah, I forgot.
Why? Hunts is nasty.
Everyone lost their mind. And this is the exact same thing. Or, like, I just feel like it's something, again, that can only happen in Pittsburgh.
I mean, kind of. I don't feel like, but I think it's like when it's literally like maybe your dead family member's name embedded on like in the brick in the ground and you paid $150 for it. Like, I am mad that the ketchup has been replaced, but I am like, there is a deep injustice that I have paid $150 for a piece of masonry that no longer has my auntie's name on it.
I mean, I do appreciate that they're offering people the replica because, I mean, what is a replica? Is it it's just another...
They haven't said. Yeah. They have not said.
What does that mean?
I'm also a little confused on that because there's supposed to be this vertical display.
Yeah. Yes. So they've also said they're going to do this separate thing that's like a vertical display that's going to have the same messages on the original bricks etched onto them, but they're also not clear on exactly what that's going to be. But since this all popped off, the team president has said that the display is going to get expedited. But I haven't personally seen where it's going to be. I assume somewhere on the outer arena. They have other vertical displays kind of everywhere else.
I'm curious to see where this vertical display is going to go, but quite frankly, I don't think I'm ever going to see it. Anytime I'm at PNC Park, I'm just wandering for my next snack.
Wherever Jalapeno Hannah is, that's where I'll be.
Ooh, that's also a good one.
She's always on the move, though.
She's a girl boss.
One more update. Our boy Gabe Mazevsky, so he was the mastermind that joined us. He's behind the Our Team Not His movement, been trying to convince owner Bob Nutting to sell the team. He brought all of this up during SEA's last meeting because they had approved $100,000 for the Pirates to spend on this new concrete project. And SEA money is often taxpayer money, not always, but often. And when Gabe tried to ask questions about it, he was escorted out of the meeting by police officers. WTAE reports that it wasn't actually taxpayer funding, it turns out. The Pirates were covering this money, but Gabe was really frustrated that they did not just explain that to him and everyone else who was there for public comment and instead kicked him out for asking the question.
And by the way, SEA, Sports and Exhibition Authority.
Yes, thank you, Sophia. Chrissy, take us into the weekend with something happy. Give us some inspiration for what to do.
Adult Easter egg hunts.
No, really?
Yep.
Tell me more, because I'm
not
organizing one for my home just for me, so I can look for eggs. But I would love to do this, in a
Sophia,
less.
I have follow-up questions about that.
Do they have prizes?
I don't know.
Like candy inside, like gift cards. Like I need more information.
Token for another beer.
I probably should have asked follow-up questions, but it's not like I'm a journalist or anything.
Chrissy, always asking the hard-hitting questions over here. Thanks, y'all. Hope you have a good weekend. That is all for today here on CityCast Pittsburgh. Our music is by Benji, All the Kimonos, Wendy Marcini, and Abbas Premji, with additional music from epidemicsound.com. Mallory Falk is our executive producer. Sophia Lowe produced the show with help from Noah Snyderman. Francesca DeBecco writes our newsletter. Kevin Gavin is our trivia master. And I am your host, Megan Harris. We will be back on Monday with more news from around the city. Have a great weekend, everyone.
It is 11 a.m. on Saturday and Sunday.
Oh, that's too early in the morning.
It's Easter.
Isn't church still going on? I don't know.
Anyone that's going to an adult Easter at Hug is not starting at church. I mean, I guess that might be generalizing, but...
I mean, in Pittsburgh, I think this is the target demographic for people who start at church and then go straight to a brewery.